8 killed and nearly 50 wounded. That was a recent weekend in Chicago. Homicides are up over 50% compared to last year. Perhaps it was the unseasonable warm spring temperatures or the demolition of nearly all the high-rise public housing that has scattered thousands of gang members into rival territories. But the fact is, in some South and West Side neighborhoods, it's guns, drugs, and gangs.
We have a very specific gang problem here. It's tied to narcotics, but it's a gang problem, which is different than New York, certainly, or the East Coast.
That is typically filled with heroin. They cut down a straw and snort it right out of the baggie.
And you're hurting your mother.
With nearly 70,000 members, Chicago is the most gang-populated city in America. That, according to the FBI.
All right, hands on top of your head. Now go around to the back. Hands on top.
AP spent several days embedded with the Chicago police narcotic and gang units. We rode along day and night, observing and documenting the conflicts and police strategy.
Right now we're in a pursuit of one of the young men that just ran.
As they hit up targeted spots and chase down criminals making arrests.
Hands on your back. All right, you're under arrest.
All this based on months of undercover investigations that has led to each police takedown. The goal? To curb the shooting and lock up the dealers, ranging from low-level street thugs to Mexican cartel operations in Chicago.
Seizing the guns, holding on to those markets, and attacking the lifeblood of the gangs, which is the narcotics trade.
It's really not about who's in what gang, it's all about the money.
We talked to the gang members, we talked to the police. What they told us is it's more complex than any of us can imagine, and perhaps gangs as we know it are changing.
Put your hands behind your back.
There's no control. There's no leaders.
At only 23, Devon Timms was raised by drug dealers. He describes his young life as a gang member of the prominent Chicago vice lords as something he has known since birth. And he has ideas on why the surge in violence.
There are sets now young guys do, and they take their own morals and understandings to what they believe in and make it into what they do, which is a lot of chaos.
Historically, in the past, the gangs were very organized from the top down. Now, they're very splintered.
A double-edged sword for police who are fighting internal sectarian street violence.
All of the leaders, the guys who were the chiefs and gang leaders, are now in prison. You know, so there's no one out on the streets to control this. You know, it becomes a haywire.
40's on the way. Sorry, you got tape?
The gang enforcement unit is heavily armed.
Guy in the back seat. Keep your hands where I can see him. Come on up.
Sergeant Matthew Little is on the front lines. He is also a soldier with multiple tours in Iraq and Afghanistan.
Especially working in Afghanistan, it's very, very similar. You're basically working gangs. It's a tribal culture in both places.
Just how violent the gangs are can be found in the numbers. While still well short of the historic highs of the early 1990s, the number of homicides stood at 203 through May. That's up from 134 homicides in the same period last year.
Sacramento from Harrison.
How long were you locked up for?
I did a year.
A year for what?
Selling drugs.
What kind of drugs?
Leaf.
Leaf, what's leaf?
PCP.
PCP, and you don't do that anymore?
No.
The following day, after this interview and police arrest, 23-year-old Devin Wright's mugshot was prominently placed at a press conference. He was charged with delivery of a controlled substance.
And I got to tell you, Chicago's become a hub for a number of the major cartels. It's our job to identify and attack those organizations. The difference of the strategy here is we're attacking at the highest possible level, even if that takes us to Mexico, working in Mexico with our counterparts there. But at the same time, we're making the connections through transportation routes, through the way they handle their money, and we're making a difference to interrupt the violence on the street.
And they recruit them at a young age. Some kids are born into the gang. The vicious circle, it's got to be broken somehow. As the schools get better and the education gets better, then hopefully people will realize that there's a different path.
In upcoming reports, the AP will explore the effects of this violence on the communities and the search for solutions. Robert Ray, Associated Press, Chicago.